my name is Emily, and I work at Google. And I don't work in our engineering team. I don't work in our sales team. I work in our very, very small, but very, very awesome marketing team. And within that group, I work in a team called the Media Lab. And what my team is responsible for is media best practice and innovation across all of the different products and services that we run marketing for in EMEA. I'm based here in London, despite the accent. And so, as Peter mentioned, I'm here to talk to you today about programmatic. I'm not going to spend too much time on why programmatic is important. I'm sure you're all hearing that from many different sources, and you're talking about that within your own organizations. But I did want to reference the stat that Peter mentioned, that at this point in time, probably we don't have the exact stat, but halfway through 2015, it's very likely that half of all of our advertising in digital display media right now is being bought programmatically. So what several years ago was an addition to our media plans, something that was sort of a side tactic, maybe not exactly the focus for us as marketers, today programmatic is the way that we are buying and executing digital media. And so I think that one of the reasons that programmatic maybe has had a bit of a slow start was that there are some misconceptions and there are some myths about programmatic. And so when I talk about what we're doing in programmatic at Google Marketing, I'm actually going to attempt to dispel 3 of the most common myths that I think are out there about programmatic. And hopefully you can take that information back to your daily lives as marketers and to your clients if you're here from the agency side, and use that to help push programmatic forward. And so with that, jumping right into the first myth, so that programmatic is only for direct response. Now, back in 2007, as I mentioned, when programmatic first began to emerge and demand-side platforms started to become available for us as marketers to use, I was working at a performance digital agency at the time, and we were running a lot of network buys. We're running a lot of network buys, running remarketing, advanced targeting, behavioral targeting, third-party data usage, et cetera. And we all of a sudden realized that if we worked with these DSPs to run our network buys directly through them, we all of a sudden were bringing in CPAs, efficiency-driven campaigns, and our goals of a third of what we were doing with the networks. And so programmatic became established as this great means for us, this great tool within our digital media performance toolkit. And it kind of got a name for that, right? Like programmatic became this thing that, okay, if you're a performance marketer, you're going to become good at programmatic. But flash forward to 2015, and what has happened now is that programmatic has actually brought the toolkit that we have in performance media to brand marketing. So what do I mean by that? I mean that programmatic gives us tools and signals, data signals, that we can use to optimize our campaigns in real time for brand, just as we did back in 2007 for direct response. If you think about this wedge that we have here, this is how we like to think about our campaigns at Google when we're brand advertising. We think about brand safety first, because if we're serving our ad in a bad location, that could actually have a negative impact on our brand. We like to think about viewability next, so does the ad actually have a chance to be seen? Second, does it have the chance to be seen by the right person, the person that I'm actually trying to target and influence? Third, reach and frequency. Am I showing the ads to those people at the right amount of times? Am I serving somebody 50 ads a day and they kind of hate me now? Or am I only serving some people 1 ad and they're not really getting the message? And then lastly, engagement. Are people in content where my ads are being shown, where they're actually engaged and they're paying attention? And when we optimize to these things in flight in our campaigns, we see real brand lift. All of these things we've proven to have a causal relationship on driving brand lift. So this is great, but you might be thinking that for brand advertising, well, programmatic's awesome, but we still need video, we still need high impact placements, et cetera, et cetera. And absolutely we do. And very, very quickly, those things are becoming more programmatic as well. So what we did to try to demonstrate the value of these tools that programmatic gives us was to do an analysis of all of the different media tactics that we're using across our campaigns. We looked at programmatic, display, mobile, video, and high impact. And when we looked at the relative efficiency of driving 1 point of brand lift for each of those tactics, programmatic was actually the winner out of all of those. And when we applied all of those optimization tools in flight, in real time, we saw almost 150% lift in brand metrics over non-optimized media. So again, this doesn't mean that programmatic display should be the focus for all of your brand campaigns exclusively, but it does mean that when we bring those tools that programmatic gives us to brand marketing, and as we can start to roll them out across other formats for brand like video and high impact, we see a huge potential for programmatic here, and we're seeing it really pay off for us in the brand space. So hopefully, I've dispelled the first myth that programmatic does not work for brand. The second myth, I should actually preface this by saying that I was working on this deck a little bit last night, making some final tweaks at home, and my husband, who's a creative director at a very large digital ad agency, kind of looked over my shoulder and saw this slide, but he didn't see the myth portion at the top. He just saw programmatic equals the death of creativity, and he was kind of like, what are you talking about tomorrow? And so what I'd like to dispel here is that programmatic is the death of creative as we know it, that it doesn't give us the chance to be creative, to think creatively, and to use the right sides of our brain in our brand marketing. So we know from both our own campaigns and from the industry that creative is actually a huge contributor to marketing success. There have been studies like this is a dynamic logic study from a few years ago, showed that creative was actually 70% of the success of a campaign. Media factors like targeting and ad placement only contributed to 30% of that success. Now, we've also seen this when we've run our own campaigns. We do what we call creative impact testing, where we pre-test all of our creative before it goes into market. And when we did that testing, of the creative that failed, none of those campaigns that ran that creative had any measurable impact in market. But of the campaigns that did pass testing, most of those campaigns were successful. So creative is important in a programmatic world, in a non-programmatic world, it doesn't matter. But what we've been doing and the way that we've been thinking about creative in a programmatic world, I think that from our perspective, we feel like it opens new opportunities for us and by no means is limiting in any way. And this is an example of the types of ways that we're thinking about using creative and bringing programmatic technology together. We call this the magic banner, and it's not really magic, but it's basically a dynamic banner. 95% of the content in that banner is updated dynamically based on where the user is, their location, the time of day, the day of week, the weather. And what this does for us is it actually brings the value that our products bring, so in this case, the Google search app, it brings the value of that product into the ad unit itself and allows people to actually play around with it. So if I'm out, let's say it's a Thursday night in London and I've just left work, and I'm meeting up with a friend for dinner, I might be in Covent Garden, and I see this ad, I tap on it, and I'm like, oh, what is this thing that's saying good evening London to me? And I get a sense that, oh, it's going to rain in an hour, so I should actually go back upstairs and grab my umbrella. I can see restaurants nearby, and I can actually tap on one to get directions, and then my friend and I can go there for dinner that evening. And it's about bringing that information to people right in the right time that they need it in that moment that has really worked for us. And so this is something we're rolling out right now in EMEA. We've tested it in the US previously, and when we did that testing, we saw that it had twice the average double-click industry expansion rate, a 40% lower cost per point of brand lift than our standard mobile ads, and it recently won the Drum Mobile Award for the best use of video and rich media, which I guess is kind of interesting when you think of programmatic. This is a fully programmatic ad. It's built in DoubleClick Studio, delivered by DBM. So for us, programmatic and creative go hand in hand. Third myth that I want to mention is that technology is all you need. So in the programmatic space, we talk about all this technology, all these acronyms, DMPs, DSPs, RTB, PMPs, et cetera. And I think there's this notion that all of this technology is just going to kind of do it on its own, and we don't need traditional marketing thinking anymore. For us, that couldn't be further from the truth. We have all this data, we have all this technology, we have all these tools at our disposal, but when we don't think about the insights, and we don't use that data to get to insights, or use tools to help us get to insights, we won't find success as marketers. For us, insights come from product relevance, that moment, the intersection of the moment and our product together, as with the magic banner, where we can actually add value to somebody's life. And so what we've been doing, using data that we have from our search team, and tools that we have to pull and aggregate and analyze this data, we've actually taken the concept of the magic banner and we've extended it out to 2 additional concepts that are based on this idea of being present in the moment when a user actually needs us. And the first idea is called the Explorer banner, which is all about being out and about in someone's world. So when somebody is, let's say, exploring, they're a tourist maybe in San Francisco, and what we did is look at search behavior to see where are people searching and asking certain questions about monuments or tourist destinations. We saw that people often asked why the Golden Gate Bridge is red. I actually see orange, but apparently it's red. And so the banner is able to target people around those locations and serve them answers to the questions that they ask most commonly. The other idea, if the first two are all about being out and about, the other idea that we came up with is something called the couch surfer, and it's when people are in their homes. So if I'm at home watching the Women's World Cup, I might want to know who's the leading scorer in the history of women's soccer. I might be asking those questions, typing them into Google, and so when we can serve an ad that actually pre-delivers that answer, that question and answer to our users, it helps them see how our products add value in those moments where it really matters. And so with that, I will leave you with 5 tips for programmatic success. Hopefully, I have dispelled these myths, and these are things that you can now bring back and talk to your own teams about and help them understand that, as much as people maybe want to say that programmatic doesn't enable creativity, technology is going to do it all for us, it's really not about those things. So 5 tips for programmatic success. The first is measure what's meaningful. We've spent a lot of time really digging into those metrics and identifying those metrics that cause brand lift for us, much in the way that a performance marketer looks at signals that they're gathering from a user online to see how those signals contribute to conversions. And so if you're a brand marketer and you're still looking at clicks and click-through rate for your campaigns, come talk to me afterward and we can chat about that. Measure what's meaningful, make sure your organizations understand that, get the word out. The second is redefine creative. So in the programmatic world, creative is no longer about the anthemic TV spot. It's about creative that matters to an individual in the moment when they need it. It's about adding value and giving them something. I think if you were to ask my husband, he would say that he's doing very different work than he was 10 years ago when he was working on a lot of print ads and TV spots. But I would say that he would also probably say that he enjoys his work a lot more now because he gets to think about technology, he gets to think about individuals and what they need versus the masses. Third is partner with publishers. So a lot of what we've been able to do in EMEA has not been things that we've been able to do on our own. We've partnered really closely with a lot of publishers in the UK, in Germany, and France, and they're also trying to adopt programmatic and make it work for their companies. And some of the best executions that we've been able to do are when we partner with a publisher to take a look at their content, take a look at what we're trying to advertise, and bring those two together. Again, that's a moment when the user is with those partners, engaging with what they have to say. So partner with publishers and support them as they bring programmatic to life within their organizations as well. Know the user, not just the tech. User insight drives everything we do at Google, and the technology is secondary. So the technology is great and it's wonderful, but if you don't know the user, you don't understand the insight, you don't understand what they need first, the tech won't get you anywhere. And lastly, dispel the myths. I think that I'm actually awaiting our Q2 numbers, but I think we're actually getting pretty close to hitting the target that Lorraine set for us of running 60% of our media, our digital media programmatically. And we're thrilled with that. And I think one of the reasons that we've been able to grow so fast and do so much more programmatically within Google marketing is because we've been able to dispel some of these myths that people have about programmatic and help people understand that it's actually something that will only help their buys get better and only help us be more impactful marketers. And so that's it. Thank you very much.